By the end of this video, you're going to know how to corner better, brake better, and ride with more confidence. All because of these. How? Let's find out. Mountain biking is made up of a few key skills, and by practicing these regularly, we can really take our riding to the next level. But it's not always that easy. With constantly evolving trail features and unknown trail conditions, it's really difficult sometimes to practice something over and over again and get that repetitiveness to improve your skills. However, by taking a place like this, an open sort of fire road, what we can do is with 4 cones, we can turn this area into its own personal skills area. As much as these drills are really good for beginners, I used to use these and still do to this day when I was training for the EWS. They're a really good way for you to build on your skills and break them down and sort of get rid of any of those kind of bad habits that you might have picked up over time. But as a beginner, they're also great because you can control the environment. So you can maintain the exact same sort of terrain, the exact same speed, and you can really work on those key skills that you can then build up and take to the trails. You also see this a lot with other EWS pros like Jesse Melamed. And in fact, I actually saw on Instagram literally the other day, Brady Stone practicing for Silver Star Crankworks, and he was literally out going and doing these drills out on the hill. He wasn't using cones, but the idea of, using a fire road just to be able to practice your turns and, really dial in those kind of key skills is a great element. And it's a great way to take your practicing to the next level. And like any other sport, practice really does make perfect. In this skill, we're going to work on cornering. Not only are you going to learn how to build confidence, hitting turns consistently, you're going to work on flow, and you're also going to understand grip and how you weight the front and the rear tyre through a turn. So as you can see, I've set out the cones, I've taken my 4 cones, I've set them out on opposite sides, sort of as we go down this fire road. And what you can do is you can adjust the distances of these cones depending on how tight you want to make the turns or how difficult you want to make them. To start off, I've set myself a start line a little bit further back, and I've set them out pretty far away just so I can get myself warmed up. I'm going to get into it, and I'm going to explain to you guys sort of a couple of the key pointers that you're wanting to work on when you're doing this drill. So the key cornering skills that we're going to work on with this cones drill is building lean angle on the bike. I think a lot of people have a bit of a struggle and they have a tendency to try and swing their weight out round the turn, but they don't actually lean the bike. So what we're going to try and do is keep our body as stable as possible and use our arms and our heels to kind of create the grip, but also allow ourselves to lean on the bike. So we're going to hold the bike like this, lean over, and we're going to transition across, so straightening one arm and keeping a nice bend in the other arm, and this is going to lean the bike over and drive the edges of the tread down into the dirt, and it's going to give us really nice grip, and it's also going to keep our weight slightly on the outside of the bike. On the feet side of things, what we're trying to do is keep our weight as even as possible. I try to keep my pedals actually level. I think there's an old school kind of way of thinking of like dropping the outside heel, and you definitely do still want to do that on flat turns, but for the sake of practicing sort of what you're wanting to do mostly out on the trail, keeping your pedals level and transitioning your weight on those pedals is a really good skill, and this is a great place to sort of learn to do that. You're still going to want to create a slight difference. You're going to want to raise that sort of inside knee on the turn slightly, but I wouldn't go with the full sort of 90 to 90 in the turns. So as we can see here, what we're trying to work on is getting that elbow high, getting a nice lean on the bike. This is going to drive the tyres down into the dirt and that's going to create the most grip as we try and corner around this flat turn. So what we're looking for when we're going into these corners is we're just trying to feel out that grip level. So as you come in, when you start to lean the bike over, you're going to feel where the tyres are going to start to go, and you find that point and then you just feel it out. And as you get more confident, you're going to lean in, you're going to push that bit harder, and it's a really good way to work out where the grip point is for your tyres or for your given skill level and get more of a feel for what the bike's doing. What you can do if you want to sort of build on this drill is you can make the turns slightly tighter or longer, and what that does is that's going to, you know, affect how much speed you can carry. So if you're wanting to work on sort of flowing and transitioning between turns at speed, you can drag the cones out over a longer distance, and that's going to mean the turn's smaller in radius, but then you're going to be able to carry more speed. And then work on sort of snapping and leaning the bike at speed more. If you want to work on sort of slower, flatter turns, then bring the cones slightly tighter, and this is going to slow them up a bit. So that's one of the really nice things about this drill. It's really, really progressive. You can change the sort of where you set the cones to increase or decrease the level of difficulty. You can also increase or decrease the level of speed that you're entering the drill, and that makes it super, super adjustable and a really, really key tool that I've used over and over again when I've raced throughout the years, and can really help take your cornering to the next level. So there you have it, guys. That is the cornering drill. So the key things you're wanting to take away from this are an understanding of grip. So we're looking at, you know, what tyre pressures and how much we want to lean before we start to lose grip. We're looking to build confidence leaning the bike over instead of sort of trying to corner using our body weight. And we're also trying to build an understanding of how we weight the front and the rear of the bike evenly, or, you know, unevenly, depending on how much we're wanting to corner, what part of the bike we're trying to drive through a turn. So drill number 2 is braking. So in this drill, we're going to work on front and back brake bias, or however which way you have your brakes. And what we're also going to do is work on how efficiently we can do our braking. So as you can see, I have a start line right here and the 2 cones over there. The 2 cones are marking my stopping point. So this is where I'm going to begin trying to brake and slow down. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide up the brakes. So we're going to use just the left brake, then we're going to use just the right brake, and then we're going to use both brakes, each time trying to mark out and make a marking as to where we stopped. And then what we're going to do is we're going to then try and adapt our riding style, and we're going to use different sort of forces, dropping our heels, adjusting our body position to improve that braking, and also modulate using more front brake or more back brake to shorten that stopping distance and therefore improve our ability to be riding faster out on the trail. Couple of cranks and slow down. Okay, that was pretty good. One of the things that I was sort of really unaware of as I was racing was how I sort of should bias my brakes or how I used my brakes. I always just kind of used them instinctively, and I never really had a good understanding for how I should use them. But this drill is super good for highlighting and giving you an understanding of how we should be using the brakes. So just by using the rear brake, you can see the stopping distance is around 2.5 meters to the back wheel. And then when we use the front brake, we're about 0.5 meter. So what that shows is that using more front brake is way more efficient. And I think this is something that, again, people get a bit scared of using their front brake because they're worried that they're going to go over the bars or they're going to wash the front end. But really, in terms of stopping the bike, the front brake is super important, and it's a really, really good way to slow yourself down. And by using more front brake or using front and back brake as well, what we can do is we can really improve the efficiency with which we brake. And by shortening that stopping distance down, what that allows us to do is over time, as we build confidence using more front brake, we can slow down later on a trail into a feature. So if we're approaching a corner, we can shorten our stopping distance. And if you do this over a whole trail, it's going to make you a lot quicker. So we understand now front and back brake bias and how they can help us change our stopping distances, and how using both brakes with more front brake bias is going to improve our stopping power. So the way to now practice this is to take the other two cones. So we take the two cones and we form a square. So start with a nice easy square. We'll start with, 2 meters, 2.5 meters, and this forms our stopping area. So imagine there's a trail feature coming up. This is our stopping distance. And what we're going to do is we're going to go from the same start point, but what we're going to do is each time we're going to try and go faster and faster and faster into the square and still stop by the end of the square. Because you imagine a feature is a turn, you can't go over the turn, you can't go off the trail feature because that'll take you off and you have a big crash. So what we're trying to do is replicate that here in a safe area. So I'm going to put my skills to the test. I'm going to go from that same starting point, sprint in and try and stop within this box. The key takeaways from this drill are learning about front and back brake bias. So as you can see from the stopping distances, using our front brake more massively improves how quickly we can slow down. And this is super important with sort of some of the more scary, steeper features. Being able to slow down really, really helps us be confident riding the more technical features out on the trails. The other thing is how we use our body position to improve our braking. So dropping our heels into the bike and really driving the tyres down into the dirt is going to improve how quickly we can slow down. It's also going to help stop skidding. So skidding really is just going to drag the tyres and we're going to go really, really fast and we're not really going to slow down. But by dropping our heels and keeping weight over the front end, we can massively shorten our stopping distance. The bunny hop. Not just a cool thing to show off to your mates, but this underpins jumping and also getting over those gnarly features out on a trail. In this drill, we're going to work on distance of jump and also your timing of jump. So let's get into it. First part of this drill is a simple line. What this is doing is it's setting out a very obvious point with which we're going to start our bunny hop. What you're going to do is you're going to roll out from the start, you're going to roll in, pick that point as if it's an invisible obstacle. We're going to pick up the front wheel and start our bunny hop. The best part about this drill is it's zero consequence. You can hit it over and over again until you've built confidence that you can get over features, and then you can take it out on the trail. I'm going to pick the point, pick the wheel up, and there you go. The beauty about the line on this drill is it gives you a point of timing with which to pop the bike. So as you come in, you can focus on the line, you can prepare your body to pop the front end up and get the bike nicely over the invisible obstacle that we've set out. The second progression to this drill is to take these cones and create a slightly bigger invisible obstacle. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this as our start point, same as it was before for our bunny hop, and then we're going to put the cones down here and here. And this has formed a 1 meter obstacle. Now, the really good thing about this is you still have your sort of pre-planned bunny hop start point, but this time you have to get over and clear this space, and then you have to spot your landing. And one of the key things about this is, and where it's so applicable out on the trail, is when you bunny hop over a feature, you don't just have to clear the feature sometimes, you have to actually plan where you're going to land, because if you bunny hop over a stump, you might have roots on the outside, on the back side of the jump, that you then have to be prepared to land on or prepared to sort of navigate where you're going to spot your landing. So this is really, really good for that. You can come in at a set speed, bunny hop over it. The slower you come, the higher you're going to have to bunny hop. The faster you come in, the lower you have to bunny hop. So again, really, really good for sort of measuring trail speed versus how high or how much bunny hop you have to do. finally, we have the nose pivot. Now, this is definitely a more complex drill. It's enduro specific, and it's a drill that I've used loads and loads over the years, and I still use to this day. The reason behind that is because when I was racing the EWS, I came across a lot of these really, really ultra tight turns, which you just couldn't get your bike round without taking your foot off. And when I watched some of the really, really top pros out there, they were all doing these nose pivots, which is something that I couldn't do. And I really wanted to be able to practice it, but not having those kind of trails back at my hometown, it was really, really hard to sort of practice it. So I worked with my coach. He came up with this concept of the 4 cones. It was really, really good. And one of the nice parts about it is you can build and progress the drill as you get better at the turn. So you can start off with quite a wide turn and, you know, work on getting your weight onto the front end and popping the back end round. And then as you get better and better, you can tighten up the turn. The other nice part about it is that it builds on all of the other drills that we've kind of spoken about. So it's a cornering drill. It is really, really about how you brake and using the front brake lots to sort of get your weight onto it and slow yourself down. You have to use your bunny hopping skills to unweight the rear end and swing the back end round. So it's a really nice way to sort of take all of the skills we've worked on and put them into one specific skill, and a really, really cool and fun drill that you can once again take anywhere and do anywhere. Once again, setting out this drill is super simple. First cone we're going to put down is the point at which we're going to start using our nose pivot. So this is where we're going to turn around. This is the turning point. So we're going to put this right here. As you can see, try and find somewhere that's got some like fairly non-loose ground to start with, because if it's loose, you will have a tendency to sort of slide on the front wheel, and you want to be able to be confident when you're practicing this skill. The next 3 are forming what essentially we want to form is our turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to place it 1, 2 and 3. So this is very tight, but what this is giving us is a really obvious visual element with which we're trying to turn around. Now, the tighter you make this turn, so if you imagine we're coming in here, we're going to do a nose pivot round and try and exit facing that direction. The tighter you make this turn, the harder it is. So to start with, if you wanted to, you could set the cones like that. Now, this is going to mean you have to do less of a nose pivot and you can roll out. Definitely with this drill, make sure you practice both left-handers and right-handers. I made this mistake. I practiced left-handers loads and loads and loads, got much better at it, and then came into a race and came up to a right-hander, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and I had a crash. And then once you've got this drill down, you could take this out on the trail and maybe take the markers with you and take it onto a hillside and mark out your own kind of endo or nose pivot turn. And that would be kind of the next natural progression I would take from this. And then finally, I guess, when you come up to a nose pivot turn, you'll be really confident and be able to execute the skill. With that in mind, it's probably about time I showed you guys how to do it. So let's get into it. So there you have it. That is the nose pivot drill. One of the key pointers to take away is keeping yourself bent elbows on the front of the bike. This is going to stop the front end from skidding and allow you to load the front of the bike and get the back end coming up. The beauty about this is what that's going to allow is the back end to swing round, aiming to get yourself lined up with the cones below. If you're going to make this a little bit harder on yourself, you could tighten up the radius, which is going to mean you need to do a bigger pivot. If you want to make it a bit easier, open up the radius of the cones, and that's going to make it a bit easier. Once you've kind of got the drill down, take this out on the trail. If you're lucky enough to have a really, really tight turn in your trails, practice it there. If you're not, then take these cones out on a trail and make yourself one, and then just keep practicing. It's one of those drills that it's taken me years to kind of work out and get to the point where I'm really confident doing them. So don't be stressed if you can't do it right away. Just keep progressing, keep at it. And that's the beauty of these drills, is they don't have to be done anywhere special. You can do them at home and you can just keep repeating them. So keep at it, and one day you'll get it mint and you'll be able to take it out on the trails. So there you have it, guys. That's how these 4 cones can change any space into your own personal skills area. I hope you guys enjoyed those 4 drills and they can help you take your skills to the next level. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe in the comments below. And if you have any cone-based maneuvers that you like to do, let us know in the comments below. Cheers, guys.